Recording, a lot of this is using traditional theories, but rethinking those within the context of a modern environment. Now, when we look at your organization as part of the so-called nested system, what we're doing is we're looking at the idea of Porter's five forces. Now, we know what Porter's five forces are. We know that the essence of the theory argues that the stronger those forces, obviously, the more difficult it is to compete within a particular industry. Now, what we see is that we have to make sure that all of those operate within the context of a social system that ultimately benefits our stakeholders. Remember our redefinition of what strategic success is, and that obviously is stakeholder wealth. Page 66, 2.2, can we do the same thing? Can somebody just take a picture of it for those of you that didn't buy the textbook and just stick it on the group? I would appreciate if somebody could do that. I'm sure Ashira will do that for us. So when we look at your organization as part of this so-called nested system, the first one is that there's this acknowledgement to operate within social and ecological thresholds. So to cheat a bit is to go back to my Woolworths website, but look at the social elements immediately highlighted over there. Look at an environmental, the idea of ethical sourcing, the waste recycling, the responsible fishing and farming, looking after energy and water sources. So what Woolworths does in terms of the social and ecological thresholds is the realization that unless we do business differently, unless we all of a sudden rethink of how we are going to become carbon neutral and carbon negative and how we're going to use that to our advantage, as a business, we're not going to survive. Now, I think the simple truth is ignoring those things will have adverse results for people and organizations. I think, first of all, we know that people want to do business with the good guys. Secondly, if we keep overfishing, the impact long term would be poverty. If we don't look after water, the impact long term would be the fact that there are no crops, etc. I read an awful article this morning, and these are the kinds of things that I hate sharing. But I don't know if anyone saw this article this morning. And I apologize for sharing this. I can't spell metropole. I want to see if it's going to pick up the news article. Yeah, it's that one there. Now, I subscribe to the Daily Maverick. I don't know, I think you have to contribute to newspapers that expose and are honest and share the truth. I read this morning, and it had such a significant impact on me. So 14 babies and toddlers have starved to death in Nelson Mandela Bay in the past 15 months. Now, this is Port Elizabeth. Now, we know that Port Elizabeth itself is a beautiful city, but like any city in South Africa, there are two sides to the tracks. How the heck and I can share that article with you. I'll stick it in here. And I don't want to sound depressing, but it is depressing. And the truth is that we have children receiving assistance for acute malnutrition, and they lose their battle against hunger because some useless individual in some sort of social development department, which honestly any government department, and I apologize for those of you that work in government or whose parents work in government, but this surely heads should roll, because I can tell you now the people in that department eat incredibly well every day. I also told you guys about this in class, that when I did my census, one of the questions that shocked me quite significantly was, and it took me a while to process it, was whether there ever has been any hunger in my home. The truth is, there's never been hunger in my home. But how many families can say that? Imagine where you have families where there's one meal a day, and that meal that the children get, they get from a feeding scheme at school. So there's hunger everywhere. Yeah, but boy, it hits hard. But Enrique, I don't give a flying hoot who you are. That hits hard. It reminds us of how privileged we are. It reminds us how privileged we are. And then please just see 188 children received inpatient treatment just because of a mess. And you can see the whole discussion. I took a few moments today to try and just understand that a little bit better. And then we need to look at what our focus areas in the organization are. Again, ecological and social context, and also to see where we are in terms of product life cycle issues. Easy to check. We simply Woolies page. Please tell me I didn't mess my Woolies page up. Again, highlighting the concern around those issues. So Woolworths realizes that they have to be sustainable. And all they do is they show us this theory in action. And that's what you need to do in answering your questions from earlier as well. And then it's to look at the organization and show how, and the key word there, transparently, they are going to move from where they are now to where they want to be. There is nothing more transparent than telling people what our targets are. There's nothing more transparent. And then going and explaining how we're going to achieve those targets. Now, remember, when we look at organizational transparency, transparency refers to the fact that someone outside the organization can look in and appreciate the operations of the organization. For me, that's transparency. They've gone on their website, they've done it, they've said, here are our targets, and they will report on our targets. So transparency is the ability of a person outside an organization to look into the organization and actually understand what is happening from an operational perspective. And then I love this, tracking performance. These guys give us exactly what they plan to achieve, and we can go and check on that site whether this has become a reality. Guys, we can also look at the organization from a broader social ambition perspective, and also the sort of making sure that our realities drive that broader social ambition. And again, if we look at the website, so no dramas, no dramatics, they're very, very clear where their focus areas are. Ethical sourcing, we know we've got to change the way we obtain our input stuff. We talk about transformation, we talk about social development, and those all link back to Woolworth circumstances. Okay, just want to stop that one there.